Steel Tour with selections for you. Saturday morning, I got your FCS plays. FCS plays 4-0 again last week. Gotta love it. Let's hope we got four more winners for you today. Let's get started with our first game. And this one's called the Revenge and Misleading Final Game of the Week. Now, last year, Lehigh, over here on the left, went 9-4, and they lost in the second round of the FCS playoffs. One of their losses was to Bucknell last year. And Bucknell, but a closer look shows that Lehigh was actually the better team in the game. So let's go take a look at that a little bit closer. You see, Lehigh had a 26-16 first down edge, 500 to 270 yard edge. The Mountain Hawks were -6. They had 79 and 97 yard TD drives and led 14-0 and were in complete control of the game. Bucknell got a kick return touchdown, then a one-play 31-yard TD drive following an interception. Tied at 21, they got a 79-yard interception return touchdown, basically a 14-point swing to pick six. Lehigh went 70-11 to force overtime. They fumbled in the second overtime, and Bucknell made the game-winning field goal and won 38-35. Lehigh finished with that 500 to 270 yard edge in the loss. Now, third-year head coach Kevin Cahill returns 18 starters this year. By the way, if you go to the homepage of philsteele.com, just click on there for a second, and you can go to the store right here. And when you go to the store, if you'd like to get two full pages on every FCS team, you're not going to see it right here. You just go to the digital editions. It's digital only. And when you go there to the digital editions, you will see that you can get the 2025 FCS preview, two full pages on each FCS team, $25. Also, there should be, I don't see the NFL one up here. Oh, there it is. The NFL digital magazine right here, four full pages on each NFL team, $15. That's all available right now at philsteele.com, so do make sure you check that out. All right, let's head back to our Lehigh page here. There we go. All right, we got Lehigh on the left. Now, they got 18 starters back from last year, including Hayden Johnson. As you know, for FCS, we've got stats all the way down here, all the way down to 2000. Oh, where we go? 2010, color-coded green and red since 2011, individual player stats since 2018. So you've got the fact that last year their starting quarterback Hayden Johnson had 67% with a 10-7 ratio, and they got a two-headed monster at running back, Luke Yoder and Jaden Green. Those guys are both back this year. Look at that. Yoder and Green are both back. So is Johnson. This is a veteran squad. Now, they've started 3-0 this year, a nice 3-0 here. And you take a look at the fact that they're plus 145 yards per game. That's a big plus. Bucknell, on the other hand, returned just 10 starters this year, only 2 on defense. And look at the defensive Reds here. In fact, they're giving up 429 yards per game on defense, and Lehigh giving up just 225 yards per game. Lehigh's holding their opponents to 84 yards per game below their average. They're allowing 83 yards per game above their average. That's not good. Also, offensively, look at this. Bucknell is gaining 26 yards below what opponents normally allow. Meanwhile, Lehigh averaging 100 yards per game above what opponents allow. So if they get 100 yards above 429, that's 529 yards offense. And on the flip side, if they give 83 yards more than their 370, that's 459. So you add the two together, you're looking about 480 yards offense for Lehigh here. Now, seventh-year head coach Dave Chattanooga here has a career record of just 19-41. The Bison are 2-1, but their only wins are over Marist. And by the way, Marist was 1-10 last year, and VMI was 1-11 last year. So Lehigh has that big edge on defense I talked about, and they were clearly the better team last year. They're playing with revenge off that misleading final, and Chris is taking Lehigh minus 10.5 over Bucknell. He's got the final score, Lehigh 38 and Bucknell 17. All right, just a couple of quick notes for you, and then we'll continue on. Tour records, just to show you real quick. I showed you this on the main tour, but I'll show it to you again. 36-16 for these FCS selections, 82-56 for the tour since 2025. And then, as I mentioned, because I'm off a rare losing week here on the tour, for the FBS plays. Naturally, with the FCS added in, what turned out 5-4. But we take a look here. The battle is on, and my newsletter, Inside the Press Box, I'm 10-10. My computer's 11-6. Computer is 64-39 the last 28 weeks. This week, you can get my college press box absolutely free. $20 value, no strings attached. Just go to philsteele.com, go to the store, get the college press box, type in the code word 8 winners. You get 4 best bets from me, 4 best bets from the computer. All year long, I'm battling the computer, see who does best. Let's hope we both go 4-0 this week and get 8 winners out of the press box. You also get one bonus FBS versus FCS play, complete write-ups on every single game for the week, computer predictions on every single game for the week, not only the 62 FBS versus FBS games, but also the 12 FBS versus FCS games, including a best bet. And it's all free. Just go to philsteele.com, get inside the press box for this week, college press box, type in the code word 8 winners, and your $20 value is yours free. It's my way of saying thanks for taking the tour. All right, let's get to your next game here, and we'll go to our FCS team pages, and we are going to put Long Island on the left. You guys remember Long Island from a few weeks ago when they upset Eastern Michigan for us. What's their nickname again? It's the Sharks. Let's go Sharks. And they are taking on Rhode Island. Let's see what we got going on. Oops, that's FBS. Let's go to FCS. Here is FCS. Let's put up Rhode Island here. All right, here's what we got on this game. Rhode Island Rams, by the way. 2 weeks ago, we used Long Island plus 21.5 at Eastern Michigan. The Sharks not only covered, they won outright. Their first ever win against an FBS opponent. LIU was in a letdown spot last week against Sacred Heart. They were minus 14 and lost, and they were actually outgained 407-208. They led the game 21-7 in the third quarter. Now they're back to their preferred role as double-digit underdogs. Last year, LIU started out 0-6, as we told you when we did the Eastern Michigan one. But their new head coach, Ron Cooper, who was the ex-head coach at Eastern Michigan, got him rolling. Not really new head coach. He's been there. It's his 4th year. Got him rolling in the second half of the year, and they went 4-2. Only one of their FCS losses last year, only one, was by more than 2 touchdowns. So they keep these games close. Here's a 14-point loss, 7. That's the only one. The Duquesne, that's even close. This year they lost to Florida, and then they lost by 3 to Sacred Heart. So when they lose an FCS game, they lose it by less than 2 scores. LIU last year led Rhode Island. Is that true? Let's take a look at this. Oh, they did play Long Island. They led Rhode Island last year 21-14 in the fourth quarter. Rhode Island went 5 yards for a touchdown after recovering a fumble to tie it with 3:43 left, then went 67-8 for a touchdown with 1:08 left, and Long Island ran out of time at the Rhode Island 35-yard line. So they played last year, as you can see. The game was close. In fact, look, Long Island actually had the yardage edge in that game, 371-344. Only one of Rhode Island's FCS wins last year. Look at this. They win by 5 in that one. They win by 12 here. They win by 2. They win by 10. There's a 17-point win. That's probably their biggest win of the year. 10, 11, 3, 14, and 4. And this year so far they've won by 2 and 14 and 11. So they don't win by big margins. They've only had one win by more than 14 points. They're actually laying 17 here. They haven't had a win by more than 17 in the last 2 years. Rhode Island did go 11-3 last year, but only one of their wins was by 14 or more, and they're doing the same thing this year. LIU is now an outstanding. You go back and take a look at the logs here. Oh, it's not updated. The magazine's got them updated since 24. It's got like the last 5 years. It's the exact same layout as you have here, or as we have in the FBS magazine. So you get 24, 23, 22. Go back and take a look. They are 9-1-1 as double-digit dogs. Rhode Island struggles to get distance on teams. So we're taking the points again with Long Island, plus 17 at Rhode Island, where it's Long Island plus 17, the technical play of the week. And he's calling for a final score, Rhode Island 27, Long Island 17. All right, your next game up. And we'll click here. One thing I want to point out to you, and I did show you on the main tour this, and I'm just clicking on there. Come on, let's get there. A little slow this morning. It's going to get there. Come on. It's working on it. There we go. We do have NFL information as well, and you get your team pages in the NFL. Now, honestly, guys, I have not watched a single play of NFL football this year. My NFL guy in Inside the Press Box is 4-2. That's good. But I want to point out this. I clicked on Cleveland because I usually click on Cleveland. We're from Cleveland. All I know from the game is I saw the final score. It was 41-17. I just assumed the Browns were completely blown out of the water by Baltimore, the best team in the NFL. Look at this. This is a sneaky team here. They outgained Cincinnati by 186 yards. They outgained Baltimore by 80 yards. Their defense held Cincinnati to 209 yards below their average and Baltimore to 190. That's 200 yards below the average. Number 2 in the NFL. Yeah, they're struggling on offense. You can see that here. But that is a heck of a defense. I remember 2 years ago, I thought when we had them on the tour, they had a really good defense at home. Home, they allowed 216 yards per game. On the road, 334. So they are back to having that type of defense, it looks like. I think 2 years ago, I said the San Francisco 49ers had a really good defense. We did that after like 6 or 7 games. I believe I showed you that on the tour. Let me just go back and take a look. And once again, I don't follow the NFL. So all this stuff is, if we go back here, let's look at 2023. Yeah, here they were with a really good defense. And I think at this point we said play on them, and they went all the way to the Super Bowl, for crying out loud. I'm not saying the Browns are going to go to the Super Bowl. They don't have the offense for that. This could be a sneaky team this year. Keep your eyes on the Browns. I was surprised at the stats. Once again, I just clicked to see how bad they were blown out by Baltimore, and they actually outgained them, and they definitely outgained Cincinnati. They were -2 in turnovers both games. All right, let's get back to your FCS. Take a look at Delaware State against St. Francis. And St. Francis is at home here. Now, you know by reading Inside the Press Box, we've gone against St. Francis this year with this Buffalo play, 45-6. And I believe last week we went against St. Francis on the tour. They're a team that's moving down to Division III next year. And so when they're moving down like that, it's a non-scholarship division. They didn't really get a great signing class. So they're a team that is probably not going to have a very good year. And look at their offense, 153 yards per game this year. They're being outgained by 259 yards per game. Now, I will say this. They're playing Delaware State. I didn't even know Delaware State's colors were red. That's interesting. The Delaware State Hornets. Now, they went just 2-21 the last 2 years. So we're taking a really bad team laying points on the road. There's got to be a reason why, right? Well, Jackson, Deshaun Jackson, who's the new head coach here, was hired to bring some excitement to the program, and he made a splash in the portal, adding Sacramento State's Caden Bennett, who led the Hornets to the playoffs. Let's take a look at Sacramento State last year. Here's Sacramento State. Here's their quarterback, Caden Bennett. And here's Caden Bennett. He led them to the playoffs in 2023. And then Caden Bennett last year, if you look under individual player stats, he was the starting quarterback, and he got injured week 2 against Fresno, missed the rest of the year. So the last time he really played was 2023, 16-8 ratio, led this team to the playoffs, led them to 421 yards per game, 31 points per game. So that's a nice quarterback to have. Delaware State played Delaware. What team are we on here? We're not on Sacramento State. We are on St. Francis. Let's get back to them. I love all this stuff. You can become an instant expert on these teams with Phil Steele Plus. And Phil Steele Plus, by the way, if you do sign up for Inside the Press Box for the season, you get Phil Steele Plus for free. Delaware State played Delaware tough in the opener, only losing 35-17. Actually held Delaware to a second. What this means out here, they held them to the number 2 best defense in the season. There's only been 3 games. Bennett has a 3-1 ratio this year, so he's picked up where he left off. And he's rushed for 280. They've rushed for 282 yards per game because he's added mobility to the rush game to go along with Marquise Gillis over here. St. Francis last year in the FCS, dropping to D3 non-scholarship next year. They lost to ULM 29-20. ULM missed a couple of extra points, 45-6 to Buffalo. Last week they played a team at their own level, and the results weren't much better. They lost to Central Connecticut State 31-7. Nick Whitfield has an 0-3 ratio this year, as you see here. So not having a great year so far. Delaware State has already won as many games this year as they did in the last 2 years combined. They beat Albany by 5. They beat Bowie State by 22. SF is on the way down. Delaware State's on the way up. They've got a top-notch QB here. They've got a new attitude. Take a Delaware State, and they are -6.5 over St. Francis. Projected score 28-10. All right, the final game, we're actually going to pick a home team here. And I guess there's not much of a home field advantage in the FCS, which is probably a reason why Chris picks a lot of visitors. It makes sense. Not huge crowds. You're not playing before 60,000 people. And they are playing UT Chattanooga this week. So let's see what kind of information we got on this game. You guys are probably familiar a little bit with Tarleton State if you follow the FBS because they beat Army this year. UT Chattanooga. What is that under? Chattanooga? Yeah, we'll try Chattanooga there. Chattanooga Mocs. All right. This is the streak play of the week, and Tarleton is at home. Prior to the season, Chris felt that Tarleton State was primed for a big season and had them number 4 in that FCS digital magazine. Once again, 2 full pages, same type of pages you get in the FBS magazine. On every FCS team, you become an instant expert on FCS football and each team. Now, they were 10-4 last year. Let's take a look at that. Very good record last year. 10-4. They lost in the second round to South Dakota, 42-21. Head coach Todd Whitten is in his 16th year, and he's 114-57. He brought back 14 starters, including 10 on defense, plus quarterback Victor Gabalis, who had a 23-11 ratio last year. Look at this, 11-0 ratio this year. I like that. That's nice. The Texans are 4-0 straight up and ATS. They have 3 dominant wins by 42 points, Portland State, Missouri Valley State, Central Arkansas, and they, of course, upset Army. Gabalis has an 11-0 ratio. Trey Page, 364 yards rushing, 6.9 yards per carry. Let's see one thing here. Page. And he didn't even play against Army. Wow. Against Army, it was Caleb Lewis with 107 yards. So Lewis, they actually got a nice little combo here with Lewis and Page. I like that. Gabalis, okay. All right, I like that. Only 6 starters for UT Chattanooga. They were 7-5 last year and missed the playoffs. Only 6 starters return, including just 1 on defense. Now, generally, when you return 1 starter on defense, they allowed 367 yards per game last year. You're going to get weaker. And look at this, 432, 513, Stetson 126. But in these 2 games here, they allowed 432 and 513. Head coach Wright has never had a losing season, but they opened up 1-2 this year. They had a 35-point loss to Memphis, and then we went against them on the tour in week 2. We had Tennessee Tech. Tennessee Tech beat them 45-17 with a 513, 274-yard edge. Last week, they beat a non-scholarship team. Remember, there are FCS teams that are non-scholarship, which means they're basically not competitive in games against the regular teams, and it showed right there, and that's why the margin was that. Tarleton won't overlook UT Chattanooga, a team that's usually in the playoff mix, and we are jumping on the streak this week and taking Tarleton to win big. Tarleton State -24.5 over UT Chattanooga. Don't forget to get my Inside the Press Box newsletter absolutely free this week, no strings attached. Just head over to philsteele.com, go to the store, get the Inside Press Box. It's up and available right now, and type in the code word 8winners once you get it in the store, and it's yours free. Complete write-up on 74 games this week. I'd like to thank you for taking the FCS tour with us this week. I'll be back next week. And if you haven't already checked out the regular tour, that's up and available too right now. And thanks for taking the Phil Steele Plus tour.